Meanwhile, the White House has unveiled its new Digital Promise Plan. That's to bring more technology into the classroom. The plan is part of the president's push for his American Jobs Act.
The American Jobs Act will repair and modernize at least 35,000 schools. It will put people to work right now, fixing roofs and windows, installing science labs and high-speed internet in classrooms all across this country.
The promise involves testing new technology and investing in a variety of companies. But should the government be able to invest at all? Our next guest is Seton Motley, president of Less Government. Good morning to you.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Obviously, this comes to light because of Solyndra and what happened there. The government invested $500 million, and they went belly up, and the taxpayers, it looks like, are going to be on the hook for all of that money because they're in the back of the line. Should the government invest in private companies?
No. First of all, I want to point out that we were taxed by Al Gore. Remember the Connect the Schools bit tax on our phones? That obviously didn't work because here we are 15 years later, and we're going to get taxed again and spend again. Government should not invest in the private sector for two very fundamental reasons. One, they choose poorly. In the big stimulus bill, the $800 billion stimulus bill, there was $7 billion to connect the unconnected to broadband. Of course, 98% of Americans have access to broadband, so I don't know what we're trying to accomplish. But beyond that, there's two options, wired and wireless, wired being much more expensive, and the government, of course, chose that instead of wireless. So building out to very rural areas is very expensive for broadband. It's cheaper to do wireless, so of course the government chose wired. But more importantly, and this is true all over the country, you hear about all the uncertainty that the government is creating. If you're a business and you're going to invest somewhere, you're going to hold back. If you don't know if the next day after you put your money in, the government's going to parachute in a government-funded competitor to what you're doing. You're competing against your own tax dollars in your field against a company that's getting government money to do what you're doing with your money. So it creates uncertainty all over the place. The government chooses poorly in whom to invest, as we've seen with Solyndra. And, of course, it creates uncertainty for job creators because they don't know if they're going to get what anvil's going to drop on their head from government the next day.
See, I know a lot of people would argue against the auto bailout, but in the case of GM, in the case of even Chrysler, GM may be a better example right now, but both have come back very well, are now profitable companies, appeared to have turned the corner, and are rebounding. If the government had not invested in either of those companies, it's clear this country would have lost billions of dollars of tax revenue, hundreds of thousands of jobs. Is that not a successful example?
You've bought into their hype, on GM's hype on.
What's wrong about that then?
We're going to lose between $11 and $13 billion on our $50 billion investment in GM. They're not paid back. They won't be paid back. Their IPO price at post-bankruptcy, which, by the way, the bailout was supposed to prevent, was $23. They're now trading at $20. For us to break even, the stock price has to get to $53. I'm not going to hold my breath. Additionally, think of all the amount per job that we created or saved with the $14 billion we're going to lose. It was a big loser. It was a big money waste. And if they'd gone through bankruptcy without our money, which again they did it with our money, why didn't they do it without our money?
All right, well,
we would have been off the hook.
We could debate that one, but unfortunately that would take about another half hour. Seton Motley from Less Government, thanks for being with us this morning.
Thank you.